inside, and it looks like a battle early on between the big guns. Absolutely perfect.
Stand by the tag, you're on board. Come on, come on.
For almost 70 years, the world's bravest, most skilled sailors have battled this race, the Great Race South. It is the Everest of ocean sailing. This is the 69th Rolex Sydney Hobart. Hello everyone, welcome to this magnificent spot on Sydney Harbour, where today we see the start of this incredible race once again. A fleet of 94 will head south this year, and of course it is headlined by the Battle of the Super Maxis, the heavyweight duel between defending champ Wild Oats 11 and Perpetual Loyal. Well, Rob Brown, you know all about this as an America's Cup winner and a veteran of this race. The quality of the field this year is just remarkable.
It certainly is, Mark. Arguably the best we've ever seen at a Hobart start. 77 boats last year, 94 this year. It's going to be an absolute cracker.
Now, what about this heavyweight duel? It's been talked about a lot. The skippers have been at each other. There's almost been aggro at times between Loyal and Wild Oats.
Well, I think there is, but I think behind the scenes they really realise that there's more than two boats in this race. And I think the likes of Ragamuffin 100, Beau Jest, the 50-footers, the 40-footers, with the weather forecast, it's anyone's game today.
Now, Brownie, we put a lot of importance on who gets first out the heads here. This is a 630 nautical mile race. It's 1,100 kilometres. Does it really matter who gets out the heads first?
Well, once that gun goes, Mark, it's red line fever, and it's bragging rights first to be at the first turn, just like racing cars, and it's no different for the Hobart.
Right, so you want to be there. Every sailor wants to be there. It is a magnificent event. We're in for a great start today. The field looks fantastic. Here's the weather for today. We're looking at a fairly mild, gentle sort of southeasterly wind to kick us off on day one. Some clearing showers, but looking mostly fine, which is great news for the spectators around the harbour today. Tomorrow, that swings northeast, so around about the same strength, but from the northeast tomorrow. And wherever you look around this magnificent Sydney Harbour, we've got it covered for you today. We are in the air, we were on board with Wild Oats 11 and Giacomo, and we have the heads covered as well. It is going to be a great start to this race.
You have the course. They start from two start lines up towards North Head, where we're commentating from, around the Sea Mark, down the New South Wales coast, across the notorious Bass Strait and around Tasman Island. Around 40 miles to go, and up the Iron Pot, up to the finish at Hobart. Plenty of racing to come.
It's just an exciting race, Rob. It's so complex this year, so much talked about, and so much focus on the defending champ.
Well, here she is, the favourite, the current record holder, 1 day, 18 hours and 23 minutes. Can they do it again? We'll only need to know very shortly. We've got a few of the guys up the top of Perpetual Loyal, and looks like they've got the wind gear, which is the wind monitoring gear on the top of the mast, so they might have had a problem with their instrumentation on board. So early issues there on Perpetual Loyal.
Yeah, it's been a bumpy ride for Perpetual Loyal, but these two are planned to slug it out, Wild Oats 11 and Perpetual Loyal, and the skippers, well, they are hard players.
It was a really neat thing when we beat Wild Oats. They were the best sportsmen in the world. They were the first to come and congratulate us, and they were last men standing with us in the bar drinking, and it was just such a wonderful camaraderie in that competition. Beating Oats in 2011 actually made it so much more special for us because they're such a hot racing team, and I definitely know they're going to be wanting to return the favour this year.
Losing the 2011 Hobart to the Investec Law guys, it was gut-wrenching. It was a tough race. We thought we sailed a fantastic race. We had a big lead at times, and we ended up being beaten by 3 minutes by those guys. And as much as they enjoyed it, we really didn't enjoy it at all.
It's going to be good going up against the old enemy. We have a good rivalry between us. It's a friendly rivalry, but it's one that I know Rico and I will be leaving no hold given.
We want to beat them, they want to beat us, and that goes through our minds through the whole race. And we don't relax for a second. The second you relax, those guys are in with a chance. And this year, as much as ever, they've got a new powerful boat, the most powerful Super Maxi in the world, and they're going to be really tough to beat. But you know what? We're going to make sure we're tough to beat as well.
So Wild Oats 11 is the benchmark for this race. They are chasing a record equaling 7th line honours. Morna holds that title from quite a few years ago, but they are after it. And as we saw and heard from Anthony Bell, Perpetual Loyal want to have their go as well. Directly in front of us, Ian Murray, legendary Australian sailor, the man who pulled together the America's Cup this year in San Diego, and in San Francisco, I should say, and did an amazing job. But it is just an incredible sight, Wild Oats in full flight.
Certainly, they've done a lot of changes to this boat. They haven't been sitting around all week or all year. They've made significant changes to beat this boat, Perpetual Loyal. This boat, Mark, was had a bit of history with losing its keel.
Quite frightening, that, isn't it? I mean, an amazing story for Anthony Bell and his crew. This boat in the Fastnet race actually lost the keel, capsized, and was up on dock in the UK, where Anthony Bell located the boat, got it to New Zealand. They rebuilt it. An amazing amount of work went on in order to get it right to today. And the drama has continued. They ripped a sail in the Big Boat Challenge. But there are so many of these maxis this year that are really in it. Ragamuffin 100, one of the 5 super maxis that really has a good show.
And this is a boat, I think, that can spoil the thunder of those 2 previous boats we just mentioned. David Witt, a very, very good sailor, with Sid Fisher, 86 years old, equals the record for the oldest person to sail the Hobart. And watch this boat. I reckon this one could win it.
It's a big call. What about Wild Thing? Grant Warrington back for his 25th Sydney Hobart, an amazing campaigner. Last took line honours in 2003. The next year, if you remember back, Wild Thing lost her canting keel, capsized, and the crew had to abandon ship. She was extended to a 100-footer, 30 metres if you like, and it's been a good year so far. Line honours in both the Brisbane to Gladstone race and the Sydney to Gold Coast. Be an exciting time for Grant Warrington. A lot of people will be watching him very closely. Now this is a massive yacht, Zafira. An amazing story. This is Gerhard Ruther, who is the German shipping magnate. This is his yacht. It's been in Sydney for about a month or so, getting ready now. Just incredible size. The amazing thing about this is the luxury on board, because, Rob, this is a real cruiser, but it is built at the moment to race, and they really want to race it to Hobart and be in there.
Slightly different to the smallest boat in the fleet, Wilpurina, a beautiful timber-crafted boat. A Sparkman Stevens design. It built in 1982, believe it or not, and was classic status amongst her rivals today. But I don't know which boat I'd rather be on, Mark. Maybe Zaviro's more my style.
Well, Zaviro does have the full industrial kitchen down underneath, so that crew are going to be living well. What a contrast, though, to Wilpurina. And that is the extremes of this amazing race, is it? From one end of the field to the other. And Giacomo, this yacht is incredibly impressive. New Zealand wine baron Jim Delegate is skippering this, and he owns the boat. An amazing story behind it. A real passionate ocean racer. This is his great love. He loves his New Zealand wines, but boy, does a great job with this boat as well. It's the only New Zealand entry this year. They're very proud to be that. An amazing crew too, including a Lingy America's Cup crew member. Juan Vila is on board here, so they expect to keep pace with the Super Maxis.
Very much so. It won the actual round the world race in 2012, and they'll be racing against this boat. We're still on board Giacomo, sorry. But this boat won the round the world race, and this is the boat that will be in close quarters with Giacomo. It's Blackjack Peter Harburg from Queensland with Mark Bradford as the skipper. A fantastic crew, and this boat loves it when the going gets tough, and they're looking for those breezes, fast-reaching conditions, and these 2 boats can rattle the cages of the bigger boats.
Well, another strong contender, the overall winner from 1997. This is Beau Jest, Carl Kwok's boat, flying the flag for Hong Kong. The boat's brand new, and Carl has assembled an incredible crew once again. He's won most of the world's great ocean races over the years, and we can expect some big things from this entry as well. Now, they came across earlier from Auckland, flew into the harbour here and made a great impression. It is a great day to be on Sydney Harbour. Right at Sydney Harbour, people are taking up their positions. It is a Boxing Day tradition to bring the family, grab your friends, and head out around Sydney Harbour to watch this amazing sight. And here we are on board with Wild Oats 11. The tension just building now as we count down the minutes ticking by to the start of this race.
This is Ian Burns, the strategist and backup navigator on board Wild Oats. But here's Ichiban. Matt Allen from the Cruising Yacht Club of Australia, a brand new Kakik 60, specifically designed, Mark, for this race. It's a 60-foot yacht, and it'll make use of the varying weather windows as they go down to the coast and optimise for the conditions.
Tony Kirby's Patrice here. Tony, a seasoned campaigner, his 29th race south, and his crew has over 200 Sydney Hobart's experience. Patrice only launched in November, but its carbon hull has already shown to be a winner. It's a very impressive yacht and expected to do particularly well in the conditions that lay ahead, Rob.
Yeah, this is built by McConaughey Boats, a Sydney company, building up in their China facility, and certainly the Kerr design. Jason Kerr, a very well-established designer.
Celestial, probably been a little bit disappointing in her last two Sydney Hobart campaigns. Sam Haynes and his crew say they have made some big improvements this year. The yacht was designed in the UK. Its home is right here in Sydney Harbour at the Cruising Yacht Club.
You just see the difference in size in these boats, and they've just got their sails down. They're just wondering what particular sail they'll use on board for the start, with about 15 minutes to go. On board Giacomo, you can see the foredeck crew there getting the sails ready. They've just got an interim sail up at the moment so they can manoeuvre. And just looking at the wind speed there, around about 15 to 18 knots on the instruments on the right hand side. Nice camera work there, guys. That's what we like to see. You can see that sausage-like sail. That is a reaching sail which they'll hoist just prior to the start to give them the most sail area. They'll be reaching from the start down to our first marks at the North Head. And what a sight, Mark. Look at that support craft out there witnessing this great spectacle.
So from our chopper view there, you're looking straight up the course and the spectator craft on either side. Back on board with Wild Oats 11.
Fucking send it. It'll be fine. We just go super low hooks. In the light air, you'll just smoke them.
That's Mark
And
Richards.
fuck up, just go low hooks and furl it. Just go with the jimbo.
Talking to
Covers all bases, you know.
Stu
Worst case
Ballantyne.
scenario is to furl the fucking thing. It's not that bad.
Well, Mark Richards is just very emotional about this race. He loves this race. He loves winning it. He desperately wants to get that 7th this year.
Basically what are you
What's
saying
going
there?
through my head 5 minutes before the start? First thing is I'm going to apologise to the viewers now before Boxing Day on the language, but it's hard to explain. I mean, you know, the intensity, the adrenaline's running, you know, very nervous times, big responsibility for all skippers out there to try and start their boats, not just safely, but to get a good start and get out their heads well. No one can train for a Sydney Hobart start. Every start's different, situations are different boats are in front of you. You get the wrong person to lure who wants to wreck your day, they'll do it, you know, so, you know, you just got to anticipate, you know, and be aware at every second of the start.
It is an amazing thing, and Rob, fair to say Mark Richards is one of the masters of getting the start right.
He certainly has. He comes from a match racing background, and what they've got to do is they're just talking what sails to use. You can see that's just moving the sail up on the foredeck. But basically, yeah, Mark Richards will be starting down at the pin end, which is the furthest away from the committee boat. And it'll be a reaching start, so that means they'll be doing it in one leg from the start to the heads. And you can see here Perpetual Loyal with that sausage-like sail, and that's rolled up, and they'll unfurl that sail when they come into the start.
What an incredible history this boat has had. Loyal, amazing background, the determination of Anthony Bell to get this boat to the line, to get this crew together and make them as fiercely competitive as they are, has just been dogged.
So,
I think most importantly, I want to get the boat off the line cleanly. We've got to remember, while there's a lot of adrenaline on the harbour and there's a lot of testosterone between all the skippers wanting to do that, we've got to remember too, it's a long race, it's a marathon race and not a short course. So most important thing will be getting a really clean start and making sure that we stay in the race for the race.
Yeah, he's done a tremendous job in his short career in the sailing world so far, Rob, but to have a Sydney Hobart title under his belt from 2011 is remarkable, and assembled once again a wonderful crew this year, including our own Larry Emder.
this is Wild Oats just having a few runs at the line. And the biggest problem for these guys is all the boats. It's okay to do your time on distance, but that's without any boats affecting you. And one of the biggest fears Mark Richards has, as well as any other skipper out there, is other boats influencing their starting approach.
We're on board with Giacomo now. Just listen in.
Just run the sheets, make sure they're clean. 15 seconds. What about it? Make sure it's clean around the end.
Now, all of these entrants will be very aware that the 10-minute gun is not too far away. And there it is, 10 minutes to go to the start of the 69 Sydney Hobart. And Rob, you can almost feel with the firing of the cannon, the intensity steps up again.
Everyone's hard to skip the beat. That's Stu Bannatyne just checking his watch. A lot of communication goes on in the afterguard of the boat, relaying information to Mark Richards on the helm. That's Tim Wiseman, the bowman, who's pulling the spinnaker sheets. What they'll be doing, they'll be dragging out a reaching sail, and I heard Mark Richards say that they're looking at a fractional reaching sail which will not go to the top of the mast, so it's a slightly smaller sail.
And he's not on board today, Bob Oatley, at 85 years of age, but you can bet your bottom dollar he's out on the harbour watching very closely. Great story, Bob. His first boat he launched just across the harbour there. He bought it from a schoolmate for 50 cents, an old wooden frame that he put some canvas around, and that was the start of one of Australia's great sailing careers for Bob Oatley, and as passionate as he's always been.
Yeah. So we have 3 starting lines today. The larger boats will start on the first starting line, then 200 metres further back will be the slightly smaller boats, and this is just to give everyone a fair go at the start, and hence there'll be 2 rounding marks at the heads 200 metres apart, so they're actually doing the same distance. Now, one of the amazing things about this boat, one of the developments, is a horizontal hydrofoil board, and you can see that dark patch just below the waterline. And that board actually comes out, that's it there, just left of screen. That comes out when they're reaching downwind and actually gives another 2 to 3 knots of boat speed. And these are the small refinements that have been made during this last 12 months. And the other thing is they've got a new mast, a new boom, 200 kilos lighter, which is an amazing amount of difference.
Yeah, really work on the slingshot. Yeah.
And we're on board with Giacomo here.
We've got Steve Cotton as tactician, a round-the-world sailor, and also Chris Dixon, the famous America's Cup sailor, on the helm. David Blanchfield doing his 28th Hobart, the only Australian on board. I wonder if he can understand the lingo. We'll wait and see.
Jim Delegate, the owner, was at the press conference during the week. He thinks they can spring a surprise on some of the Super Maxis. He realises they won't be as fast, but if the conditions play into their hands, he's hoping somewhere south of Gabo Island that they might be able to pull a move.
Got Wild Thing, the other 100-foot yacht in this race. So they're just having a few runs at the line. You can just see how big these boats are. 27 tons of load are on those guy stays, as we call the backstays on the boat. The total weight of this boat is 27,000 kilos, 31,000 kilos with all the people and food and safety gear on it, and that is considered to be light.
It's hard to get your head around 31,000 kilos, but to give you an idea, Rob Mundell, the media guy, worked it out during the week as the weight of 7 elephants. So that's what you're floating around on there. It's quite incredible.
That's Josh Whittaker in the middle of the screen there. He's a trimmer on board. Mark Richards just called the hoist of the reaching sail. And here we have some of the Clipper 70s, the round the world boats, they're actually sailing around the world backwards, and I don't mean in reverse, they're sailing against the weather systems.
It's quite an incredible race, isn't it? So this will be race 6 of their 16 legs around the world. They come from all countries, all walks of life, the sailors on board these, but they will have a start as part of this race, and they will race to Hobart as part of their Clip Around the World race, which is just fantastic. 40,000 miles they'll take in right around the world. The world's largest ocean race is part of our race here in Australia.
One of the biggest challenges for the sailors with the 5-minute gun just about to fire. Is getting the right sail combinations for this first reach. It's only going to be around about 6 to 7 minutes, but if they don't have the right sail on mark, that first turning, they're going to be coming around in bad gas there, so this is a crucial part of the race.
And while this race is 630 nautical miles and 1,100 kilometres, you get out of the heads first and you are dictating the race. You're doing it on your terms. You're not following anyone, you're not trailing behind anyone. You want that clean space.
You've got first use of the breeze, and it's great to be looking in the rear vision mirrors instead of looking forwards, wondering what would happen or why it happened. You can
just take a look at Southern Excellence there as they prepare.
You can see on this boat they've got a dagger board that's sticking up through the hull, and a number of the larger boats have these dagger boards. That's that white area, and they put those boards down to increase the lateral stability of the boat, which stops the boat from slipping sideways.
Yeah.
Okay, we're now just over 3.5 minutes from the start, and as you can see, we've got the fleet coming together, jostling for their positions as they start to get set for the line.
It's interesting, Mark.
Still envisioning the jib coming down.
Easy. I want to slow down. Slow right down.
Asking for the sails to be eased.
Yeah, yes.
But both boxes in opposite corners at the moment, Mark. They haven't engaged, but give it a few minutes and that could be totally different.
Got some water there, could we? Water, big fella.
So positions being taken for the start of this amazing race in Sydney Harbour. Perpetual Loyal, there is a good look at the start line, so they need to be back behind the markers. And important to point out, Rob, if you cross the markers, you'll be notified you need to go back around.
Which is an absolute disaster if you're over the line early. You have to return and go round the ends of the start line. So giving the fleet that much start, it's certainly not a good thing to do. That's Stu Ballantyne just punching down there. Ian Burns calling the time. They have a computer on board which actually tells them the time and distance to the line, but there's nothing like still having that gut feeling of judging the right speed and when to sheet on and accelerate for the line.
You look at skipper Mark Richards there. He's just a ball of energy at the moment, just taking in all that information.
Just jib on, guys. Let's go gear on.
Just asking, see if the sails are flapping there. So he's asking for the sails to come on. He wants speed.
Yep.
So there's David Witt right on the transom of Wild Oats. Now, are they going to have a match race at this pin end? I spoke to David Witt earlier and he said he was going for it.
Guys.
5 giant super maxis heading side by side down Sydney Harbour, most likely with Spinnaker, Rob.
Yes, that'll be a rather tight angle. They'll be using a reaching spinnaker, or what they call the R1s on the bigger boats. So you can just see how much activity goes on when they're attacking the boat. Now here they come. Perpetual Loyal above Wild Oats. Easing the gear means they're too early.
We're now inside 1 minute from the start of the Sydney Hobart.
Wild thing there, Grant Warrington with his reaching sail foil.
Good work, go Hummer. Come on, sheet on, sheet on, sheet on. Sheet on, sheet on, sheet on. Ready for a deploy.
He wants speed.
Keep it high.
Yep.
Higher if you can.
Jib on, jib on.
Keep it higher.
Jib on.
30 seconds to the start.
Ready for a deploy. How long?
15 to kill.
15 seconds early.
Deploy, 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 deploy.
Rico wants his start.
Let's go.
5 seconds.
Shoot on.
There's the gun, and they are away in the Great Race South. The 69th Rolex Sydney Hobart is underway.
Go to the board up, guys. Board up.
So we've got Wild Oats at the top of the screen with Perpetual Loyal, and I'm just trying to pick up, it looked like could be Guacamo who got the pin, but also Blackjack at the bottom of your screen. They've got a great start.
An amazing sight in international ocean racing. The start of the Sydney Hobart, and this fleet is racing to get to North Head here in Sydney and get out of Sydney Harbour and continue south. What a spectacle.
So that's Perpetual Loyal in the middle of the screen, and just to the right of that is Wild Thing. Wild Oats 11. So I'd say it's probably an even start between Perpetual Loyal and Wild Oats, and the big thing now is who's got the angle right to the first mark. Ragamuffin, David Witt's got a great start down the pin, so he's taken the pin away from Mark Richards.
Just the start we dreamed of. So closest to you on the screen there, we have Ragamuffin, Wild Oats 11 and Perpetual Loyal. They are racing 3 abreast, flying down Sydney Harbour.
It's probably about halfway to the first mark, and Wild Oats is actually now putting bad disturbed air onto Ragamuffin, and you can just see Wild Oats starting to open up now. Plenty of boat speed.
And just ever so slightly edging ahead of Perpetual Loyal. And look at that spectator fleet. Always famous in Sydney, an incredible day out. And the harbour city's turned on a beauty as well.
So their first mark is probably about 1 kilometre away. You can see they have got, some of the boats have got a headsail up as well. And you can just see what happens when you lose the wind from the other boats. They go very slow, but nothing in it yet. Depending on the breeze mark, the inside boat at this first mark will have rights. So Wild Oats 11 has to put a little bit of speed on here to get out and be clear ahead of Perpetual Loyal to get that bragging rights.
Go main on, come on. Here we go. It's going to go light again, guys. It's going to go light. Easy, smoke it. Get a bit of board up, guys. Get a board up.
So at this point in time, Perpetual Loyal has inside running at the first mark.
And you can see Mark Richards there on Wild Oats 11 is just doing everything he can to try and get that little bit extra speed out of Wild Oats 11. He needs to get the nose of Wild Oats 11 in front of Perpetual so they can turn cleanly at the mark.
Let's go, main on, come on.
There's Josh Whittaker in the middle there, trimming the Jenica. The R2 reaching sail. Chris Harmson on the main. So nothing in this mark. Line ball, who's going to be first out the heads?
Exactly what we wanted. Have a look at that side by side. 2 of the world's great super maxis. Wild Oats 11, the defending champ, and Perpetual Loyal, which we know to be and is regarded as one of the fastest 100-footers anywhere in the world. Closing in on the turning mark now, and this is going to be a pretty wild right-hander, Rob.
Exactly, as we come into this first mark. Perpetual Loyal has rights coming into this mark. It's the inside boat, and the outside boats have to give it room. So at this point in time, Perpetual Loyal looks like it will lead round the first mark. Very shortly you'll see them douse these reaching sails. They've gone roller furlers. There's nothing in this mark.
Nothing in it. Have you ever seen 2 super maxis race down the harbour as close as this? Perpetual Loyal is edging right up beside Wild Oats 11. This is a show of muscle.
You ready?
Only 622 miles to go.
What a way to start this incredible race, the Everest of ocean racing.
So they've just been headed slightly there, but Loyal now, holding the whip hand, has rolled over the top of Wild Oats.
Now the bottom right-hand corner of your screen at the moment, that is the mark that they are aiming for, as you can see. Perpetual Loyal has the inside running and can force Wild Oats 11 wide and around that mark. Most importantly, though, they will have the clean air.
That's right. So very shortly you'll see them roll these front sails up. They're reaching sails up, and then they'll lower them. But Perpetual Loyal, certainly, there's been nothing in it. The boat speed has been so close down this first reach, and that says it all.
How close are they? That is incredible.
Rolling the sails up now. They've got a big roller furler. Hand signals there. Rico wants to take Loyal up.
You can get round outside him and lead him round.
Get the board.
So there's the first mark in between the two boats. Now Wild Oats, he's clear ahead, so he has full rights to go to head straight to that mark. So Wild Oats has just snuck ahead of Perpetual Loyal. What a race.
This is some start, probably the greatest we've seen in recent years. Amazing strategy by Mark Richards. We mentioned earlier, he is the master of getting this right, and he's nailed it in his home harbour once again.
Now, I don't know what... Anthony Bell has done something very strange there. I think he didn't see the mark. That is crazy.
Well, they've certainly given up a lot of space now to Wild Oats 11. It's a long race, as you said, but there's a lot hangs on getting out the heads first.
And that's Giacomo in second position, snuck round in front of Perpetual Loyal. And you can see the difference in size of the rigs here. That's a Volvo 70 compared to the big 100-footers. And we always knew that these boats were going to be very competitive, and they would be very, very pleased with themselves coming around this first mark in such close contact.
So an incredible duel going on at the moment. Wild Oats 11 has the upper hand. Mark Richards got what he likes. He will be first out of the heads as they head to open ocean.
Blackjack also in good form coming around that first mark. But there you've got the top 7 boats, very close indeed. Now the forecast is indicating this breeze will go round to the left, so they've got to go to the sea mark, but I don't think you'll see too many boats tack back in towards the coast.
Now, we'll take a look back at this, but we believe that Anthony Bell and Perpetual Loyal were actually heading towards the wrong mark. Now, remember, there are 2 marks out there. We believe they were heading to the mark on the right of your screen, and they needed to be going high to the mark on the top left of your screen. And that's where they've got into trouble. They've been spooked out of it, basically.
Well, Wild Oats has luffing rights here. He can cause the boat on the right-hand side of him, and that's a luff there, so Anthony Bell's responding. But they must know where the mark is, and this is where I find it really strange. Wild Oats are pulled away, heading to the mark, and Perpetual Loyal, just for some reason, does not come down quick enough.
Well, tactical error. We know that. There's the mark, top of frame now. Just over 8 minutes into this Rolex Sydney Hobart race.
Well, we certainly have the match race already in this great start.
And now the hard work really starts. On board with Giacomo now as they head out through Sydney Heads. You can see now the swell starting to build. All the guys have got their dry suits on, and they are working hard.
These guys are fit. You know, everyone thinks that yachting is like watching grass grow. Well, come out and try it one day. Have a go at them. On board Giacomo, winding the handles. That's David Blanchfield. Winding a winch. You're too old to do that, David.
And the grinder getting the sails up. Now, so many of the Super Maxis, like Wild Oats, have the hydraulic lifts, the hydraulic motors that pump the sails to the top. Here's the good old-fashioned grinder.
Yeah, that's just manpower. Those handles turn the winches, which attach to the sheets and control the sails. Now Giacomo just did a little clearing tack out back towards the heads just to clear its air. But most of these boats will head out to sea, Mark, and get into the stronger East Australian current, which is running at about 3 to 4 knots, which is just like jumping on an elevator to go south. So that's what they're heading for.
So Wild Oats 11 leads them. Blackjack there out to the side, and Perpetual Loyal has made up some good ground as well. This is on board with Wild Oats 11.
Really nice job up forward, you guys. That was awesome.
Rico patting his crew on the back. That's fantastic. I think I might have called earlier that Giacomo was second. It was actually Bo Jess, the 80-foot Carl Kwok from Hong Kong boat. So they've done very well. That's Chris Harmson just talking back to his helmsman. Chris is controlling the main sheet.
Real slow. I need water, mate. I need some water.
With all that talk going on, Rico, you do need some water. But a lot of communication going on, and what he was after there was speed. He wants speed, so he's talking to his trimmers, and just look at the size of this boat. This boat's 7 metres in width compared to Wild Oats 11, which is only 5 metres. A huge difference in the width of the boats.
So we're looking back now from outside Sydney Heads. You can see the Harbour Bridge back over the cliffs of Dover Heights and back inside Sydney Harbour. So they are flying down the coastline heading south now, and as you saw on Perpetual Loyal just a moment ago, they're heading to the Zulu mark now, which is their final mark before they can make their way south and on towards Hobart. But an important mark just to clear them out of the harbour.
And I've just noticed on Wild Oats they've actually put a reef in their sail. You can see the mast sticking out the top of the mainsail, which is the back sail, and this is because the breeze has increased. And there's a good shot. You can see how much mast is sticking out the top of the sail backwinding there, just indicating that the breeze is up. And that was Bo Jess just to left the screen, who's doing very well for an 80-footer and a brand new boat.
So at this point, everything starts to settle down on board Wild Oats 11. The crew take up their positions.
I can just see that power boat just to the left of Wild Oats, and guess who that might be?
The boss.
The boss, Mr. Bob Oatley, looking at his boys, and I'm sure he's very happy with proceedings thus far.
I reckon right now he'd want to be on board too. 85 years of age, Bob, great Australian sailor. Of course, they are now instrumental in Australia's America's Cup campaign. So we wish the Oatleys very well for that.
You can just see there how slow, and here comes the rest of the boats. Just rounding the first mark back at the heads. And there we've got Zafiro, who's, geez, they've held back. Just trying to pick up this boat here, bow number 79. And that is, looks like Venture 2, an Elliott 50. Owner and skipper Stephen Chapman from Lake Macquarie Yacht Club. And look at the difference in size. That's a 100-footer versus a 50-footer, half the size. That's Southern Excellence there with the red bow.
It's quite incredible, I mean, that speed at the front between the Supermax is incredible, but the competition is no less intense back amongst these guys because they know their class, they know their competitors, and they are racing as hard as they can at the moment.
Well, any one of these boats can win on handicap, and that is the overall prize.
They're trekking south now. The Sydney Hobart fleet is well on its way. They have rounded the final mark outside Sydney Harbour, and you're looking at first and second, Wild Oats 11 and Perpetual Loyal. We certainly got in the start this year the arm wrestle that we were expecting. It is game on. And just back from them is Bo Jest, which has been a remarkable start for them, Rob.
And here we are back at the first turning mark, and the first boat there is Schutzbar. Bruce Taylor from Victoria, the Royal Yacht Club of Victoria, and he's doing his 33rd Hobart race and in good shape around that mark. The next boat, Midnight Rambler.
Midnight Rambler. Ed Saltus famously won the 1998 Storm Ravished race. More recently was second overall in this year's Gosford Lord Howe race.
We've got Veloci there, and then the first of the Clippers, the Clipper 70s, Henry Lloyd, after a good start. And 64, bow 64 is
Ocean Affinity. Stuart Lewis in the Martin 49.
And Dodo, another CYC cruising yacht boat, leaving Sydney Harbour. You'd know these waters very well. A Andrews 52 and Adrian Dunphy at the helm. And you can just see how rough the water is, Mark, and that's caused by these boats, but also the spectator craft is coming out round their heads and just making it all that much more rougher. So the little boats are trying to get clear air and just trying to find some flattish water, as we saw one of the ferries out there manoeuvring. And here's Bacardi, the oldest boat in the fleet, doing its 28th race, and this yacht has done more races than any other boat in the Sydney Hobart history.
I know they've got a lot of supporters around the country. Bacardi, what is it? Something like 4 masts, 7 keels it's had over the years. The hull's been rebuilt, but Bacardi powers on. It's a great story.
To think that these power boats are going flat out trying to keep up with a sailing boat. Back on board Wild Oats. It's Ian Murray there having a bit of a look around.
He is just such a steady hand on board, isn't he? Amongst all the emotion and the frenzy of the crew and Mark Richards' commands, Ian Murray is just eyes on the game.
Robbie Naismith, one of the trimmers, very experienced Kiwi, comes across every year and sailed on this boat and has been on the boat for every victory that the Wild Oats 11 has had.
And at the front of this field, between these two incredible racing Super Maxis, Perpetual Loyal and Wild Oats 11, this is going to be an incredible race this year. They both want it so badly. Anthony Bell wants his second, and Mark Richards wants that record equaling 7th line honours victory.
That's Beau Jest. Beau Jest just to the left of Wild Oats 11, and there's Ragamuffin 100. On board Giacomo. So that's Chris Dixon at the helm. Got Steve Cotton calling the shots. And as we said before, there's the coffee grinders, which they require manpower to wind those winches. You can just see the communication going on between Steve Cotton and the main sheet trimmer. And these guys are in charge of speed. The tactician, the navigators, they're in charge of the strategy and where to go. And here are the Stormen and Packers. The boys on the rail. They'll be sitting on there for a few days to come.
And Rob, when you say the Packers too, you look at those sails sitting on the deck and they don't look that heavy, but that's a good 3 or 4 man operation to try and move one of those sails. I've tried it once and it just amazed me how heavy they are.
So I suppose Wild Oats has just stretched its lead out to probably about 100 metres, which is significant. That's bragging rights, that's a feel-good situation. But boy, oh boy, with this weather forecast, I've spoken to a number of the navigators, Mark, and they all agree that this is going to be one of the hardest races to pick.
And now rounding that mark is our final boat, one of your favourites, Rob. Will Perina, the smallest boat in the fleet, has rounded the mark and is leaving Sydney Harbour.
Yeah, Nick Canner from the Ku-ring-gai Motor Yacht Club up on the Hawkesbury River. There's a little wave from them. They're going to take a little bit longer than this boat to get to Hobart. That just gives you an idea of the speed.
There has been drama already at the start of the Rolex Sydney Hobart. Wild Oats 11 you see ahead leading the field. This is Perpetual Loyal in the foreground at the moment. And we have seen Perpetual Loyal just tack away from Wild Oats 11. Rob, that's an interesting move at this stage of the race.
Yeah, look, ideally they want to get out into the East Australian current and get the advantage of that. But I think what's happening, they're getting a little bit of disturbed air off Wild Oats. But also look at the spectator wash. And here, look at this. See the red flag there, Mark? That is a protest flag. And I think that may be that they were claiming that Oates didn't have rights to luff them at the first rounding mark. So it could be forward in the courts down in Hobart. So this race has taken another twist.
Mark, let's go back and see if we can work out what unfolded on board with Mark Richards and Wild Oats 11.
It's okay.
I think they're claiming there was contact.
Foul!
He has room.
Okay, let's go.
You can get round outside him and lead him round.
So Wild Oats,
Get the board.
Wild Oats had full rights to luff Loyal, and if there was contact between the boats,
Let's go.
Loyal being the weather boat was in the wrong. So a protest flag on Perpetual Loyal, and that must be the incident. Plenty of drama on board. You can just hear the anxiety going on there. Rico working overtime on the helm.
Let's go. Let's go, guys. Sheet on. Let's go, Reef. Reef, soon as you're ready. Reef. JH.
Protest flag on the back of Wild Oats as well.
It's okay, let me talk. Let's tank up. Where's the mic? Yeah, got it. Let's go, Jim on.
That's John Hildebrand, the boat engineer and technician, going down below to check on the equipment.
What a remarkable first turning, Mark. All the drama, in fact, I'm going to say more drama than we ever imagined. We knew this would always be big when you got these two crews together and these two incredible yachts sailing at pace against each other, and we knew from about a month out that there was a lot of frustration between the two. They both wanted to win, and here you have it. They are just about neck and neck now as they force their way south.
And Wild Oats 11 doesn't want this boat out of its sight, has also tacked coming back in towards the coast. So this is going to be, they're going to be looking at each other the whole way down to Hobart.
It's eyeballing, isn't it? It is two heavyweight boxers just going blow for blow, and it probably started a month or so ago when they started niggling each other, but it is a long way from finished, we know that.
I thought I saw a protest flag on the back of Wild Oats, but it has not been flown. So at this point in time, Perpetual Loyal has the red flag out, which means that they can call for a arbitration or a decision at a protest to just go back through that incident. But that'll be playing on their minds, you know, the protest this early in the race is what you don't want in a race like this.
And as you look at Wild Oats too, the boat which has had so much work leading into this year's race to try and make it better and faster, you can see the canting keel just underneath the waterline there. Amazing piece of engineering, 12 tonnes of torpedo-shaped lead ballast that can swing at it up to 40 degrees and just get the boat into its optimum speed. It's quite remarkable. They've nicknamed this boat the Swiss pocket army knife for all the bits and pieces that now hang in and out of it. But I love the expression Mark Richards used, that it's had a nautical nip and tuck. A lot of work done.
Interesting enough too, Mark, you can see on Perpetual Loyal they've still got their R2, their reaching sail, furled up, and that's just to the right of the front headsail there. So they must be planning that this breeze is going to go round to the left, and they'll be using that sail in a not too distant future. Compare that to Wild Oats. They've furled their sail up, they've lowered it to the deck, and so they're in and actually sailing the boat in a lot faster configuration because that sail out the front of the rig is slowing them down. It's windage.
The two heavyweights of Super Maxi Racing, two 30-metre boats going at it. They're two of the fastest in the world, and this race is going to be a beauty. We've got You're watching the start of the Rolex Sydney Hobart, and what a drama-filled start it has been. The heavyweight slugfest between these two, Wild Oats 11 and Perpetual Loyal, has been incredible. And now Perpetual Loyal is playing a game of tacking back and forth, Rob.
Well, good call there, Mark. Here goes Wild Oats tacking, doing a loose cover, which means that they just want to stay in contact with Perpetual Loyal. They don't want to let them get out of their sight. They're going to stick with them because they believe that they are faster.
So this is it. This is an arm wrestle, a match race, all the way to Hobart.
It was funny how they, before the start, they were in opposite corners and they came together and they, oh, here we go, a retirement.
Now, this is Audi Sunshine Coast. Rodney Jones is the skipper. They've got a problem.
Top highlight ring for the code 0. The Dynex has let go and it's pulled down all the way to the hounds.
So it's torn the mast out?
Yeah.
The wall of the mast?
Yeah. So unfortunately, I wouldn't be going on a back style of that.
Wonderful shot. The view there from, that is Ragamuffin, just making her way down the coast.
Sid Fisher doing his 44th Hobart alongside his old mate Tony Ellis, who's doing his 47th, and it's the 45th race together.
And we've
they're
got
amazing stats when you think about it.
incredible. A big pat on the back for these guys too, because we understand that at late in this race there's a real feeling that Ragamuffin has a great chance to win the Sydney Hobart on line honours.
Very much so. You know, some boats are enjoying these conditions. Wild Oats certainly is. The lighter upwind stuff is really suited to this boat, not necessarily so to Perpetual Loyal. And there's a great shot of the canting keel, 12 tonnes of lead, which is probably at around 45 degrees to the vertical plane as we're seeing it there now. And there's these aerofoil shaped the boards which extend out from the side of the hull, and they use that when they're running with the wind.
From the Wild Oats crew, John Hildebrand's going to tell us a little bit more about that.
Here we are downstairs in Wild Oats, and we're looking at the canting keel mechanism, which plays a very important role in Wild Oats' ability to generate some righting moment by canting a keel 43 degrees. It is operated by a hydraulic ram, a 200-tonne safe working load hydraulic ram, and we can operate that at 14 seconds from side to side. So it'll cant through 90 degrees in 14 seconds, so it's quite quick. The reason we have a canting keel in this boat is to have an advantage, a weight advantage really, on a conventional boat. You can achieve the same leverage, pressure against the sails as another boat, but the other boat would have to have a lot heavier keel. So in this case, it's a great advantage, even though we compromise a little bit of weight within the boat. The advantages far outweigh it.
It's incredible innovation, and when it went on Wild Oats 11, when the yacht was launched in 2005, it was Bob Oatley's pride and joy that he managed to get that on and working and doing so well, an innovation.
Well, we're back live here, and Loyal is stretching its legs, trying to get back to somewhere in contact with Wild Oats 11, which is tacked back towards the coast. So the breeze is changing in direction, and they're just playing the wind shifts now, which is interesting. I said that they wouldn't leave each other. The leading boat usually just responds to any move for those behind them, but Stu Ballantyne, the round-the-world sailor, is an absolute master of picking the shifts and going the right direction, getting feedback mark from Ian Burns and Ian Murray. They're looking at the weather models. The weather's going to go all funky over the next 24 hours, so a lot's playing through their minds at this early stage in the race.
And at this stage, this is really where Wild Oats 11 needs to open that gap as they head down to Gabo Island, because the forecast this morning tells us that somewhere down there in Bass Strait there's going to be a change of weather, a southerly, which plays more into the hands of Perpetual Loyal.
Yeah, it likes to, when the going gets tough, strong upwind conditions, whereby Wild Oats 11 likes light weather running and reaching and light weather upwind. So, as I said just previously, these conditions are ideal for Loyal, but things will change. And spare a thought for the little boats. On Sunday morning, a 40 to 60 knot southwest change will come through when they're just entering Bass Strait. These boats will probably be well home by then, but they're going to have to fight through some pretty tough conditions.
It's an incredible facet of this amazing race. 94 starters this year. We've had one withdrawal. Our field is back to 93. The yacht out of contention is Audi Sunshine Coast, Rod Jones and his crew. He's got Matthew Chew on there, of course, a 2009 Etchells contestant, world's champion and Queensland champion in 2013. So an impressive crew, but things weren't right for them and they decided to withdraw.
We just saw Bo Jess there, Carl Kwok, in his 80-foot boat and going very well, currently in third position. And then you can just see there's a difference in a strategy here. We've got this group of boats here still heading out to sea. And that's Blackjack to the right. He's done very well. The boat with stars is Giacomo, the other Volvo 70. So these two boats are going to have an arm wrestle. And here's Carl Kwok in his beautiful boat, Bo Jest from Hong Kong. On these boats, so there must be wind shifts out there, and Perpetual Loyal has lowered the R2. Finally, they've lowered that sail which was protruding out of in front of the yacht and slowing it down. But what I'm seeing here is Wild Oats 11 just stretching its legs. This point of sail, this light weather upwind sailing does not suit this boat at all. It likes it fresh and bumpy and a lot more wind, and that's when this boat comes into its own. But you can just see the work going on deck to control that 940 square metre reaching sail. And here we are on a bow jest, Carl Clock. Now it looks like they're possibly going to do a sail change here. You can see the 3 foredeck guys there working on a sail. Now maybe they're thinking about doing a headsail change, but I just can't believe they haven't got the right sail up at the moment.
So they've made a great start, and you can see just off their bow is Ragamuffin 100.
So back on board Perpetual Loyal, and well, look at this. We've got the front dagger board, Ella Bechet. Nice sponsorship signage opportunity there for Ella Bechet. Now this board, they've just tacked, and what that does, there's one on each side of the yacht. So this one's just come up, the other one on the other side of the boat has gone down, and this stops the boat from slipping sideways. When they cant their keel out 45 degrees, the boat doesn't have as good directional stability, so they've lowered this dagger board, which improves that part of the equipment.
What a sight heading south now towards the southern part of the coast of Sydney. And that's Wild Oats 11, and then across the bow is Perpetual Loyal. Wild Oats 11 still has a lead and an edge at the moment, and Ragamuffin 100 back across there even further. So it's been a good start for Wild Oats 11, and they have done what they do so well. They've just made a start with precision and skill and teamwork once again. But this Perpetual Loyal crew, we really should take our hats off to them, because they have forced, as you said, they forced Wild Oats 11 to step up another notch. And that's because not only do they have obviously some very talented general sports people and our stars of the screen like our mate Larry Emder on board, but they also have a real core of professional sailors who sail around the world. They know each other's moves. They've been working hard all year, and they've come together, and they're really going to get, when the conditions go their way, this Perpetual Loyal boat flying.
Well, Tom Slingsby just won the America's Cup, Australian guy on Oracle. He's won a gold medal, but he's never done a Hobart, and he said it's on top of his bucket list, and here he is sailing on board. And Jessica Watson, the young girl, the youngest ever female or person to sail around the world single-handed non-stop.
Quite a remarkable crew. So far it has been a heavyweight slugfest. It has been Wild Oats 11 and Perpetual Loyal, with Ragamuffin 100 hanging around there as well, and Bow Jest. It's been quite a start once again this year in magnificent conditions on Sydney Harbour.